Hello Naveen, and allow me to welcome you and the rest of our viewers to the first video on this brand new channel, Mideast Crisis. Allow me for just a moment to address our viewers and not you. I think you can handle the lack of attention for about 5 seconds, maybe. What this channel is going to be is a sort of a commentary on a whole lot of different issues in the Middle East, varying from religion to history to social structure, and anything you can really think of. The Middle East is a very charged area right now, with a lot of different issues and a lot of attention from the international media. So this will be a good way for a lot of people to get a better idea of how the Middle East functions, what it's really about, and what's actually going on there, because honestly, we can't depend on the mainstream media, particularly the American media, to give an accurate portrayal of the Middle East, because an accurate portrayal does not give you good ratings. And to start off with, I'm going to, just as a setup, help debunk a couple of myths that have been revolving around the Middle East over the last couple of years or so, and a lot of people have been given not so good ideas, or not so great ideas, or not so accurate ideas of what is actually the truth behind these myths. The first myth I want to talk about, and I'm not going to go into this in too much detail, is the Ahmadinejad myth, where Ahmadinejad is supposedly quoted to have said that he wants to wipe Israel off the map, which is not true at all. If you were to watch the entire speech and then go to the full translation of the speech from Farsi to English, you would see that really all that he did say is that Zionism, much like many other political or social regimes of the past, such as communism, for example, will eventually be wiped from the pages of history or wiped off the current map, insinuating not that he intends to wipe Israel off the map, but that the political system known as Zionism will eventually fade from its existence. This reminds me a lot of the weapons of mass destruction myth that was perpetuated through the United States and the world prior to the US invasion of Iraq, and we all know how that turned out. I just want to say, before you take what you see on the news for granted, make sure you're seeing the whole picture. A lot of the footage that we see on the news, a lot of the videos, and a lot of the comments that we see on those videos aren't really very sensical or accurate or smart. Some of the footage may have been filmed a couple of years before the news story that you're watching. It may have nothing to do with what the newsman or woman or the anchor man or woman are actually saying about that video. And one example of that has been videos that came out after the 9/11 attacks showing Palestinians rejoicing in the streets. Now, I'm not saying that there was no rejoicing in the streets. I'm not saying that there was rejoicing in the streets of Palestine after the 9/11 attacks. What I want to point out is that some of the footage that was shown was really out of context. It was a crowd of people in a plaza or a court of sorts just sort of yelling and cheering, and then someone falls from a balcony and a bunch of people run over there and start beating him up. And there was no flag burning, there was no death to America kind of thing, and I really don't understand how any of that footage was tied to Palestine at all. Anyway, I'm going to put that aside for now. Like I said, I'm not going to go into this in too much detail, and I'm going to stop myself from jumping all over the place. The second myth that I want to deal with is the myth of Islam and terrorism, specifically what Islam says about tolerance, about dealing with people of a different religion, and what the actual statistics are about modern day Muslims' views regarding terrorism. What you're looking at right now is a Venn diagram of the number of Muslims in the world versus the number of terrorists in the world. And as you can see, contrary to the belief of many people across the world, most Muslims do not associate with terrorism, nor do they support it. And on the other hand, most terrorists are not, in fact, Muslim. As for the terrorists that do claim to be Muslim, I can assure you that they are either behaving based on a political agenda or on a very diluted religious one. Islam in no way endorses the deliberate killing of innocents. Also, this whole issue of the 72 virgins, that I don't know where that came from. There is absolutely no mention anywhere in the Quran of 72 virgins. So I've taken the liberty of digging up some quotes from the Quran, from early Muslims, and from Western historians that have discussed Islam and the Middle East in general. These are quotes that I think a lot of people should hear, just to get a better idea of what Islam actually stands for. Chapter 49, verse 13, a part of the verse goes, "Indeed, the most honorable of you in the sight of God is the most righteous." Chapter 60, verse 8, "God does not forbid you to be kind and equitable to those who have neither fought against your faith nor driven you out of your homes. In fact, God loves the equitable." Chapter 3, verses 133 and 134 read, "Be quick in the race for forgiveness from your Lord, and for a garden whose width is that of the heavens and of the earth, prepared for the righteous. Those who spend freely, whether in prosperity or in adversity, who restrain their anger and pardon all men. For God loves those who do good." The next quote is not a quote from the Quran. It is from an early caliph, Ali bin Abi Talib, circa 661 AD, in which he says, "Infuse your heart with mercy, love, and kindness for your subjects. Either they are your brothers in religion or your equals in creation." I've come across this individual named Muhammad Marmaduke Pickthall, who was an Englishman, an Orientalist, and a Muslim who translated the Holy Quran somewhere in the 1930s. He wrote extensively about the Middle East, and this is just a bit of an excerpt from a lecture that he delivered. It reads, "In the eyes of history, religious toleration is the highest evidence of culture in people. It was not until the Western nations broke away from their religious law that they became more tolerant, and it was only when the Muslims fell away from their religious law that they declined in tolerance and other evidences of highest culture. Before the coming of Islam, tolerance had never been preached as an essential part of religion. The tolerance within the body of Islam was and is something without parallel in history, class and race and color ceasing altogether to be barriers." And there are many, many sources, much like the ones that I just presented, that give you a look into the true nature of Islam as a religion of peace and tolerance, not of terrorism and prejudice. Naveen, I hope you enjoyed our first video on this channel. I can't wait for yours, and well, if you didn't enjoy my video, I'm sorry to say I will have to go jihad on your ass.